If the microbiome is critical in our growing epidemics, diabetes, obesity, fatigue, chronic conditions, then the most important thing is what can we do about it? What are our action steps? And so we know that as we reduce the amount of foods that we eat, as there's less diversity in our diet, there's also less diversity in our good gut bugs. That is not good for health. So eat a wide variety of diet, find many vegetables that you like, and this will be one way to get on your way to improving the microbiome. We also know that being able to breastfeed will help a kiddo's microbiome take off, and we can mimic some of what we learned from breastfeeding to help us in other ways. One of the big therapies of breastfeeding is the immunoglobulins, or the passive immune system that it gives to a kiddo. This favors a healthy microbiome, so we can reach for these immunoglobulins in supplemental forms extracted from places like colostrum or from egg-based sources and use them to help our microbiome take off and to function like it should. We know that fasting for just one day will change our microbiome significantly, so incorporating intermittent fasting into our lifestyle or working with dietary approaches like a ketogenic diet where you eat higher amounts of fat. Many of us have thought that the benefit of that diet actually come from the fat intake that you're doing, getting healthy fats into the body. While that may be part of it, what we're learning in terms of brain health, even seizure control, that it's not the change in fats that go into the body, but how they influence your microbiome. And as you change the bacteria in your gut, you make better levels of neurotransmitters that help us with rest and relaxation. And so thinking about what we're putting into our body is critical in terms of how our microbiome will flourish. No big surprise, but exercise is still healthy for you. Those that engage in 30 minutes 5 times a week doing some type of low intensity exercise can improve their biodiversity of their microbiome. So it's important to make sure we're incorporating this in. However, the flip side is if we exercise too long with too much intensity, one of the reasons we will overdo it is not because of what it does to our muscle mass, but because of what it does to our microbiome. If we exercise too intensely for hours and hours, it puts us in a state of fight or flight, not rest and digest. It puts us in a state of the nervous system that does not favor our microbiome. You will have less blood flow to the gut, and that decrease in blood flow compromises the biodiversity of the microbiome. So exercise in the right amount, but not excessively, is important to keep good, healthy bacteria. In fact, some of our overtrainers, when they lose ground in terms of times in races, when they can't recover quite as quickly, it's not always because of muscle mass failing, but because of the microbiome failing, which creates inflammation and makes it more difficult for them to recover. Making sure we have exercise in place is critical, and other pillars of health are still important. We must manage stress. If you are constantly stressed, again, you put your nervous system in fight or flight, that sympathetic branch of the nervous system that helps you to run from the bear. You are no longer in rest and digest, the parasympathetic branch that helps us to calm down. This decreases blood flow to the gut, and it will kill off your good flora. So even the impact of stress can be traced back to our microbiome and what it does to our body. Ever notice that you might gain more weight under times of stress? Or some people will even lose more weight and get too small under times of stress. This is because of how stress affects our microbiome and changes the way that we interact with calories. Same calories, different outcome, and that gets us back to stress. So in our garden, where we're trying to get our microbiome to flourish, again, we want to put in the right fertilizer. Prebiotics can be thought of as that fertilizer. So prebiotics are things like starch or inulin, or things with fancy names like arabinogalactans. Arabinogalactans come from larch tree or other fibers that are out there, and they'll help our microbiome to flourish. We can often use different functional foods or protein powders that are designed to improve gut-based health and look for ingredients such as larch or arabinogalactans, because not only will they reduce your incidence of colon cancer, but they'll help your microbiome to take off. And when we put these good prebiotics in place, it means that we'll favor the flora that decreases obesity and helps us with weight loss, as National Review of Endocrinology tells us from 2011. nutrition. Incorporate healthy beverages into your diet to favor a good microbiome. Green tea is an excellent example of that. We know about green tea because of its antioxidants, reducing our risk of cancer, but did you also know that it has an antimicrobial action, killing off the bad bacteria, allowing our good bacteria, lactobacillus, to grow more? We can also use things like oligosaccharides, which come from fibers as well, plants like onions or chicory or garlic, bananas and artichoke. All of these provide the fuel for which helps our microbiome to grow, increasing their ability to divide and take over. So when we eat a diet high in fat, high in salt, high in processed foods, we're eliminating many of those fibers that favor a healthy microbiome, and it's one more reason that it shifts us from lean into more weight gain and more chronic conditions. Also, diet needs to be low in sugar. If we're eating a sugary diet, we favor the exact type of bacteria that causes us to gain more weight. When we begin to dissect epidemiologic evidence and look at things like a Mediterranean diet that shows favorable outcomes in terms of cardiovascular disease, when we look at what's known as the French paradox, where they eat more fat yet stay more lean than we do here in America, and when we begin to look at why that's true, we're right back to the microbiome. That Western diet that's high in fat and sugar and low in fiber can alter our microbiota within a day. Similarly, diets high in sugar significantly decrease microbial diversity in the gut just after 1 week. The impact is quick, but the good news is if we want to reverse it, that impact can be quick as well. So when we're thinking about a microbiome, it's not just taking a probiotic, but it's making sure we're giving it the right elements to grow. Those right elements to grow are a healthy diet, one that's high in good healthy fats, low in sugar, making sure we're incorporating the right amount of exercise, not too little, but also not too much, and making sure that we have our stress under control. When we pull those factors together, this is the fertilizer that makes our garden grow and that allows our microbiome to flourish.